The islanders of Tsushima noticed them first, dark ships moving silently across the horizon. At first, they almost look harmless, tiny shadows drifting slowly through the sea fog. But as the fleet grows larger, fear begins spreading through the villages, because everyone already knows who is coming. The Mongols, the same empire that burned entire cities to the ground, the same warriors who destroyed kingdoms across Asia, and now they are heading toward Japan. Temple bells begin ringing through the hills. Fishermen abandon their boats and rush back toward shore. Villages begin carrying supplies into the forests. Mothers pull frightened children inside their homes, and high above the coastline, samurai warriors stand silently beside the cliffs, watching, waiting, preparing. The wind grows colder. The ocean becomes rougher, and slowly, more ships emerge from the fog. Hundreds of them, massive sails stretching across the sea like a moving wall. For the people of Tsushima, it must have felt like the end of the world itself was approaching, because the Mongols were not simply another army. They were the most feared warriors on earth. Entire kingdoms had collapsed beneath Mongol invasions. Cities that resisted were erased completely. Survivors spoke of endless cavalry, burning villages, mountains of corpses, and now, those same warriors were finally coming for Japan. But the samurai waiting along the cliffs still believed in the old rules of war: honor, single combat, personal bravery. The Mongols believed in none of those things. They fought together, fast, disciplined, merciless, and before the invasion was over, Japan itself would be changed forever. Long before the invasion of Japan, the Mongols had already transformed much of the known world. Only decades earlier, they had been divided tribes scattered across the harsh grasslands of Mongolia. Life there was brutal: freezing winters, constant warfare, and endless survival. Children learned horseback riding almost before they could walk. Archery became part of daily life. Every Mongol warrior understood endurance, speed, and discipline. But everything changed when one leader united the tribes: Temujin, the man history would later know as Genghis Khan. Under his leadership, the Mongols became unstoppable. Entire armies vanished beneath Mongol cavalry attacks. Horse archers moved faster than most enemies could react. Cities that resisted were burned to the ground, and fear of the Mongols spread across Asia like a disease. The Mongols did not simply conquer kingdoms, they terrified them. Stories of massacres spread ahead of their armies. Some cities surrendered immediately after hearing Mongol war drums in the distance. Others resisted and paid a terrible price. The Mongols perfected psychological warfare. Sometimes they spared survivors intentionally, only so those survivors could spread terrifying stories to nearby cities. Fear became one of the Mongols' greatest weapons, and it worked. By the late 1200s, the Mongol Empire had become the largest land empire in human history, stretching from Eastern Europe to China. And after Genghis Khan's death, his grandson, Kublai Khan, expanded the empire even further. China fell beneath Mongol rule. Korea became a subject state. And eventually, Japan became the next target. But unlike many kingdoms before it, Japan could not simply be reached by land. The Mongols would need ships, thousands of soldiers, and a dangerous sea crossing. Still, Kublai Khan believed Japan would surrender like everyone else. He was wrong. But Japan was unlike the kingdoms the Mongols had conquered before. Separated from mainland Asia by the sea, Japan developed its own style of warfare. At the center of that world stood the samurai, elite warriors trained from childhood. Everything in their lives revolved around discipline and combat: swordsmanship, archery, horse riding, honor. For the samurai, battle was deeply personal. Before combat, warriors often announced their names and family history to the enemy. Single combat was respected. Courage mattered more than numbers. Victory brought honor, cowardice brought shame, and death in battle was considered far more honorable than surrender. Their weapons were deadly: longbows capable of killing enemies from a distance, curved swords designed for brutal close combat, heavy armor built to survive battlefield encounters. Samurai spent years mastering horseback archery. Many battles began with arrows fired from mounted warriors charging across open fields. But despite their skill, the samurai had never faced an enemy like the Mongols. Because the Mongols did not fight as individuals, they fought like a machine. Large formations moved together. Archers fired massive waves of arrows at once. Drums signaled attacks across the battlefield. And perhaps most terrifying of all, the Mongols used explosive bombs. Small weapons filled with gunpowder. When they exploded, they created smoke, fire, and deafening noise. To many samurai, the invasion would feel almost supernatural. In November 1274, the invasion finally began. Thousands of Mongol soldiers crossed the sea toward Japan. The island of Tsushima became one of the first targets. Local governor Sosuke Kuni gathered around 80 samurai warriors and rode toward the beaches. But the battle quickly became chaos. The Mongols attacked in massive coordinated formations. Drums echoed across the battlefield. Explosive bombs filled the air with smoke and fire. Arrows rained down in massive waves. The samurai had never seen warfare like this before. Instead of honorable duels, Mongol soldiers attacked together in groups. Wounded samurai were finished immediately. Retreating enemies were hunted down without mercy. The beaches became covered with bodies, and despite their bravery, the samurai were completely overwhelmed. One by one, Tsushima's defenders fell. Villages burned across the island, civilians were slaughtered, and the Mongol fleet continued moving toward mainland Japan. Survivors later described beaches covered in arrows and blood, smoke rising above burning villages, and terrified civilians hiding deep within the forests as Mongol warriors searched the island. For Japan, the invasion had only just begun. After the invasion, the Mongols prepared for the final assault against mainland Japan. But then, the weather changed. Dark clouds covered the sea. Powerful winds crashed against the Mongol fleet, and suddenly, a violent storm erupted across the ocean. Ships collided in the darkness. Waves smashed against wooden hulls. Thousands of Mongol soldiers drowned beneath the sea. The storm showed no mercy. Entire ships disappeared beneath the waves. Warriors struggled desperately against the ocean currents. Broken wood and burning debris floated across the water. And throughout the night, the storm continued destroying the invasion fleet. By morning, much of the Mongol navy had been destroyed. The Japanese believed the gods themselves had intervened. They called the storm Kamikaze, the divine wind. And although the Mongols would attempt another invasion years later, Japan survived. But the invasion changed samurai warfare forever. The samurai learned that warfare was no longer about honorable single combat. War had become larger, more brutal, more organized. And somewhere beneath the storms and bloodshed of Tsushima, a new era of warfare had begun. Even centuries later, the story of the Mongol invasion would survive inside Japanese history. A reminder of the moment when one of the most powerful empires on earth nearly conquered Japan, only to be stopped by the sea itself.